Hello and welcome to the latest edition of a very different lunchtime learning. I'm delighted today to be joined by two guests. So Melanie James, who is a trustee of Heartbeat Trust UK, and I'm also delighted to be joined by Simon Tucker, who is the founding trustee and operations director of Heartbeat UK as well, Heartbeat Trust UK. So thank you both very much for joining me. It's a really important topic. I also like to thank Naomi Webben from Dawson's, who kindly introduced us, who does the most incredible job with all her charity work in Swansea and is the most incredible lady. So both of you welcome.
Thank you.
Um, I got introduced to you because I think one of the scariest experiences of my life, where a gentleman, whilst I was playing walking cricket, had a cardiac arrest, and fortunately had the foresight to go and get a defibrillator from a clubhouse, and had to administer, not only using the defibrillator, but using CPR. And fortunately, the defibrillator made it very, very easy. And I'm really grateful that the gentleman survived. Um, and he's still here. He's doing okay, which is great. So, how did you both get involved with the Heartbeat Trust?
I'll let Simon go first. He's the founding member.
Henry Gilbert, who's the chair of the charity, I knew, and I joined him on some sort of initial discussions about what we could do as far as the charity and what we want to achieve. My father unfortunately passed away with a cardiac arrest
Sorry.
about 8 or 9 years ago. So I had an affinity with suffering a loss via cardiac arrest, and it sort of snowballed. We decided that we'd look in Swansea and Neath Port Talbot, which are the two. Neath Port Talbot's the nearest area to us, West Glamorgan of old, to see where defibrillators were. And you'll be amazed how many are hidden, how many were lost, how many weren't rescue ready, how they were just indiscriminately placed. So when Heartbeat Trust was set up, we were set up with three aims. The first one was to strategically place defibrillators where they're needed, because about 80% of out of hospital cardiac arrests actually happen in the home. So it's great to have it on the high street in the high footfall areas, but ultimately they need to be on the corner of the street or in the cul-de-sac to have its greatest effect. So our objectives, our raison d'etre was strategically place them where they needed to be and make sure as many were 24-hour accessible, because there's lots in shops, and when they close, and schools and office blocks, they're not available potentially when they're needed. Secondly, we wanted to tell people where they were. So with the use of some marketing tactics and signage and public awareness activity, we wanted to tell them where they were. And then the third thing was, okay, you know where they are, now do you know how to use them? So we spend a lot of our time basically training people, and we have lots of free training courses around the region. And we use St John's as our training partner, as well as some in-house trainers. And those are our three things that we started the charity off to do. We've expanded it. We're UK, so we have lots of partners all around the UK, and some new offices shortly in Birmingham is going to open. And we work very closely with the air ambulance charities to make what we've done potentially national.
Okay. Um, I mean, this is for me. I had no awareness of where defibrillators are. Since the incident happened, I've been quite vocal saying to people, do you actually know where your nearest defibrillator is? I know there's a website, I think it's Defibrillator UK, where you can just type in and it will tell you where it is, and that's as much as I know. Um, but it's a start. But how can so my audience is mainly estate agents. How can they find out all the, where the nearest defibrillators are in this area, in their areas, whether they're 24/7? Because for me, if I was an agent today, I'll be pushing out all this information to help my community to let them know what's going on, and I think it's really important. And secondly, on that, I know that we've got the champion here, the blood kit champion as well. So can you tell us a little bit more what the blood kit is all about and how that's now being utilised with the defibrillators as well and the locations?
Yeah, of course, of course. So the story began just roughly about 18 months ago, on the lead up to when I was being appointed as High Sheriff of West Glamorgan. Now that's a voluntary role. You are nominated by the community, completely unpaid, but it gives you an opportunity to look into doing something, and if possible, fundamental for your community. And being a magistrate, I'm a magistrate in the youth court. I was becoming increasingly aware of an increase in young people being brought into court who were carrying knives, bladed articles. I was also very aware of some dreadful sort of fatal stabbings in England in particular. And so I felt that if I could make some fundamental difference and if possible save lives, I would introduce critical bleed control kits. Now, these kits, they have evolved from the army, they're military grade, so they're far superior to a first aid kit. In England, the good news for you guys is there's in excess of 30,000 of these kits already available for the public to use. In Wales, there were none, or I probably shouldn't be brave enough to say there were none, but there was certainly no more than perhaps a handful. They were obviously carried by Welsh Ambulance Service, have something similar, and the police were carrying something similar. But it seemed to me incredibly sensible to start to roll these out. Now, in England, have predominantly been placed in their own boxes. So you might sometimes see a red bleed control box. Now, if you see that, there's a bleed control kit in there. But for me, it was a simple thing. Walking the dog, walking around the streets with the dog, opened up a defib and thought, whoa, there's space in there. We can fit this in here. So went to see Heartbeat, who I knew Henry well because Henry is actually a former High Sheriff too, as it happens. Went to see him and I said, look, can I borrow a bit of space in your boxes? Now that was the light bulb moment. That meant that they could be rolled out quickly, efficiently. I could take advantage of the monitoring systems, the registration systems, and the Heartbeat gang were just awesome. I mean, they couldn't have been more helpful. They embraced it. They took me on as a trustee. They have helped me roll that out. Just about a year ago, first kit went in. Now, it's worth saying no central funding. We nagged, I emailed, I begged, and had to raise a lot of money. So a year ago, first one I put in, and last week we have hit 525 in
Wow.
West Glamorgan. Now, West Glamorgan is Swansea, Leith, and Port Talbot. And those kits are available predominantly in defib boxes. So we are rebranding as multi-trauma boxes, which is, the new thing. And you will see some of these anyway, evolving in England. And it makes a lot of sense to put a bleed kit in with a defib. If you've got a catastrophic bleed, you will need a defib. It's all part of that for frontline service. And it's really a case of, filling the gap, filling the care gap until that ambulance arrives. Catastrophic bleeds, it's worth saying, and I say this to everybody, the kits have been used more in England for non-knife injuries. And that's really important, and I have to stress that. So it's not a knifing kit. That's what I thought of initially. But in fact, it's not been used predominantly for that. It's used for workplace accidents, motor accidents. People may be knocked over by a car, motorbike. They may impale themselves. They may have fallen through a greenhouse. There are multiple examples of when these kits have saved someone's life, and you literally have perhaps even 3-5 minutes before you will bleed out. So that's the sort of snapshot story of the critical bleed control kits. They are fairly affordable. They are £95 per kit. Okay, and there's only one small element that has an expiry of 5 years, and that's because it has a clotting accelerant. So that's how I came on board, and that's very much been a passion and a focus. And we are now moving this across Wales. So they are now in Llanelli, they're going to Llandyfri, we've got them even in Coldy Island off Tenby. So that's the story of the bleed kits.
And
Okay, thank
to
you.
go back to your point, Stephen, about how do people know where to find defibrillators and bleed kits, but defibrillators mainly. If you go to defibfinder.uk, the database that's sitting behind that website is the one that the 999 call handlers use, the emergency services use. It's dynamic, so if somebody gets called to the defib on the corner of your residential street or in the high street, it'll remove it from those search results. So you can put in your postcode or description of the area that you're in, and it will bring up the 10 nearest defibs within 500 meters of where that pin lies. And it will tell you whether they're available 24/7 or whether they're restricted hours. And the key thing in all of this is to phone 999, because 999, the call handlers will walk you through whatever you need to do. They'll help you with CPR, because it's pointless having a defib if the casualty hasn't had CPR or is having CPR performed on them. Because every minute that you don't do something as far as CPR goes, they become 10 to 15% less viable, is the phrase, for actual recovery. So, when you do CPR, you're basically acting as the heart, and you're trying to push oxygenated blood to the extremities, but the key one is to the brain. So yeah, to find your local defib, we always talk to people during our training sessions, is find out where your nearest one is to your workplace, where you socialize, maybe where your elderly relatives live, and of course where you live as well. Just be forearmed with that knowledge, but always phone 999 first is the advice.
Okay, thank you. One final thing I want to ask you is, I know there's Restart a Heart Day, which is on 16th of October 2025. What can people and how can people make that day, I suppose, more people aware of that day?
Yeah, well, Restart a Heart Day is a global event. It culminates on the 16th, but really it's a week's worth of activities. So I'm sure if people Google or go on social media and put Restart a Heart Day where they live as well, they'll find where there's lots of activity. So for us, with Dawson's, the estate agents, we've got a program where we're going to be running it out for about 4 or 5 weeks. So we're going to every branch and we're training all their staff. We're having lots of pop-up sessions in the local shopping centres and in the little regional shopping areas. We're putting a lot of content out online as well, lots of videos, lots of opportunities. So we want people to start talking about defibrillators, CPR, bleed kits during the next 3 or 4 weeks. We're hopefully turning the local Guildhall a bright colour of red or green in celebration. Hopefully other buildings as well around the area, all just to generate that debate and that awareness, which is, I have to say, is what we do throughout the year, but we focus as well on that week in October is key.
Well, look, thank you both for what you do. I think you do the most incredible jobs. I'm sure it has saved numerous lives. So thank you. I'm also going to give a little shout out here to a lady in Richmond, Laura Howie, who's got a Love Property estate agency, who has also taken on board defibrillators around her area and has done an incredible job as well. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Naomi and Dawson's, for what you're doing. If people want to get hold of you for charity, how do they do that, please?
They can go to our website, which is heartbeattrust.uk.co.uk, and there's a double T between trust and heart or beat. They'll find our phone number online if they Google Heartbeat Trust UK, based in Swansea. More than happy to talk to people. We mentor lots of people. We give them lots of advice. Learn from the mistakes that we've made in putting defibrillators out there. But we're more than happy. We're also a business partner of Zoll, which is the global leader in defibrillators. So we've got lots of information, lots of educational information, lots of freebies, branding material. We can advise them on training as well and who to go to if they want to organize their local community training sessions. But we have to say that, no effort is wasted in raising the awareness about defibrillators, CPR, and of course critical bleed control kits.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I'm really grateful, and this, what I'm sure, will make people a lot more aware of, where they can find all the operators, all the kits. So thanks a lot. So for everybody watching, thank you so much. Please get the message out there. Please share all of this stuff with your local community as well, because I think it's something that's going to help and make a massive difference. And the most important thing is it's going to save people's lives. So thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. And until the next time, everybody else, bye bye for now.